Our national parks are beautiful and contain many beautiful sights, from flowing rivers to snow-capped mountain peaks to orange desertscapes. But do they also hold much more sinister sights that only few see while visiting? Tune in today to hear our second episode of the Cryptids of the U.S. National Parks. Welcome to Morbid Outdoors, the podcast that ventures deep into the shadows of the wild. Here, we unravel the mysteries of missing persons, explore spine-chilling legends, and share the most morbid stories that nature has to offer. From the depths of the dense forest to the highest mountain peaks, we'll uncover the secrets that lie hidden in the great outdoors. Join us as we navigate the eerie, the unexplained, and the terrifying. So if you dare, grab your gear and let's embark on a journey into the unknown. This is Morbid Outdoors. Hello and happy Wednesday. I'm your host, Elise, and today's my birthday. So I decided to drop a special episode of Morbid Outdoors into your feed today because it's my birthday and I wanted to treat you. So today we're going to do our Cryptids Volume 2. In terms of my hike in southern Utah last weekend, I am pre-recording this, so I haven't been yet, but expect an update in June. I cannot wait. So if you have any cryptid stories or spooky stories, you can email them to me at morbidoutdoorspodcast@gmail.com. I want to do like campfire story segments where I read listener stories, and I've gotten a couple, but I need more. So if you have any spooky or cryptid stories, let me know and you will hear them read on the show. And if you're wondering how I'm spending my birthday, I am volunteering with my school's Special Olympics today, like pretty much all day. And then after work, I'm going to go get a facial. And that's pretty much it. That's kind of boring, but I love volunteering with the Special Olympics, and it's our school's like Special Olympics sports day. So that's super fun. And then afterwards, I will treat myself to a facial. So I hope you guys are having a great Wednesday, and I bet most of you are excited because school's out, and that means you can travel with your kids and experience more of the outdoors together. So without further ado, let's get started on Cryptids Volume 2. Okay, don't come for me, but the first one technically isn't a national park, but I wanted to feature it because I find this one fascinating, and I have family in Louisiana, and I've heard of this one before. So if you haven't, this is a pretty cool cryptid. This cryptid is called the rougarou, and it's basically only in Louisiana. And the first encounter says, that there were tales brought by French Canadians that migrated to Louisiana in the 1800s. It's a very large, powerful, kind of like a werewolf. And its special powers are that it can shapeshift, and it has great hearing and sense of smell. According to legend, the rougarou is a human that has been cursed, transforming into a terrifying creature with the body of a man and the head of a wolf or dog. The transformation is said to occur when a person breaks a Lenten vow, leading to a curse that can only be lifted after 101 days. Now, if you're not sure what a Lenten vow is, that's pretty much like a promise or a vow that someone promises to keep during the Lenten season, which is Ash Wednesday through Easter. That's mostly observed in the Catholic Church and other denominations like Catholicism. After that time, the curse is transferred from person to person when the rougarou draws another human's blood. During the day, the creature returns to human form. Although acting sickly, the human refrains from telling others of the situation for fear of being killed. So, according to Barry Jean and Slett, an academic expert on Cajun folklore and a professor at the U of L at Lafayette in America, the tale of the Rougarou is a common legend across French Louisiana. In the Creole and Cajun legends, the creature is said to prowl the swamps around Acadiana and the greater New Orleans area and the sugarcane fields and woodlands of the regions. This honestly is terrifying because it's so swampy down there that it's already creepy. But just thinking about there might be a Rougarou is even crazier. And I'm saying this in my very basic white English person, but my stepdad is from Louisiana and he can pronounce Rougarou how it's, supposed to be pronounced with the Cajun accent, but I can't. So excuse that. Now, often the storytelling has been used to inspire fear and obedience. One such example is stories that have been told by elders to persuade Creole and Cajun children to behave. Usually that's what we find in all of these stories, like Spearfinger and the Great Smokies. That was told so that children would listen. According to another variation, the wolf-like beast will hunt down and kill Catholics who do not follow the rules of Lent. That's kind of crazy. So basically, it's a creature from Cajun folklore. And also a strange thing about the Rougarou is that it can't count past the number 12. According to legend, the Rougarou is so simple-minded that it will get stuck counting the items over and over until sunrise. So you're supposed to put something outside of your door that is more than the number 12 because it can't count over that. It's said that the sun will then force it to retreat into the darkness. There are other ways to protect yourself from the Rougarou, and those include participating in Lent, as the Rougarou is said to hunt Catholics, staying inside at night, as the Rougarou is a nocturnal creature, and using mirrors, as the Rougarou is said to see its own reflection and turn away. So, like I said, not a national park, but it does lurk in the areas around Acadiana and New Orleans in the swamps and woodlands. So I just find that very kind of like a fun one. That one's rooted in religion, whereas some of the national park ones are not. So the first national park we're going to visit today is Acadia National Park. Acadia National Park is on coastal Maine, and this park includes the tallest mountain of the Atlantic coast of the United States. Its mountain, lakes, streams, wetlands, forests, meadows, and coastlines all contribute to a diversity of plants and animals. In total, it encompasses 49,075 acres. So it was a national monument at first, and that was established July 8th, 1916. February 26, 1919, it was then renamed as Lafayette National Park, and then it came to its final name on January 19th, 1929 as Acadia National Park. This cryptid is called the specter moose. The first encounter was in 1891 when a hunting guide in Maine said that he saw it. It's a huge moose, 15 feet tall with antlers that are 12 feet across. It's white or a light gray, basically like a ghost moose. Its special powers are that it can walk through objects, disappear, and that bullets don't seem to affect it in any way. This moose has been in the news, in the newspapers. So it was first in the newspaper of the North Dakota Graphic from December 6, 1900. And basically it says that all of these hunters and hunting guides and people have seen this giant moose that basically is not seen anywhere else. And it's a moose for sure. There's no mistaking this for anything else. Maine has a lot of moose, but it doesn't have a lot of huge, white, gigantic mooses or meese. And I know that that's not right. But basically, this has been published in newspapers from way, way, way back. And it's kind of took off. It's also known to travel between the spiritual and material worlds, and people believe it was inspired by old legends and myths, some of which date back to the dawn of civilization. This moose has been seen around Lobster Lake, and the first person to see it was Clarence Duffy of Old Town, Maine. He was a hunting guide who was working around said lake. Though he did not get near enough to the animal to take a shot, he could see this thing pretty plainly. He was absolutely horrified. And when Clarence told this story to other people, you can guess what happened. Everybody laughed at him. However, a few months later, a Bangor lumberman named John Ross, who was also at Lobster Lake, also saw the big moose. With this second sighting, some people finally began to believe the tales that were being told. Later that same year, a New York hunter saw the big moose near Sourdenholt Lake. I'm not saying that right. And actually fired several slugs into the animal, and nothing happened. It just made the moose angry. The moose then charged the man, and this guy actually took refuge in a bear cave where he remained for an hour before the large animal gave up and sauntered away. Afterwards, many hunters began to look for the great white moose, but it wasn't seen again until 1895. At that time, a Bangor taxidermist named Granville Gray spied the moose at a distance. A few years later, in 1899, Gilman Brown of West Newbury, Massachusetts, got close enough to the moose on the Roach River to count 22 points on only one side of his antlers. Usually, moose antlers rarely have more than 8 to 12 points on a side, so this guy is huge. Brown also fired 5 shots at the large animal, which simply glowered and stalked away. So this thing is not affected by guns at all. So the story gained national attention when it was described to the New York Times article. And more sightings followed in the coming years, with one reported in 1901 when a hunter from Boston, Massachusetts, spotted the moose near Chairback Mountain in the Cattenden region. I find this cryptid very intriguing because it's not really widely talked about, and it doesn't seem like evil. It's just kind of an animal, although it does have supernatural abilities, so I just think that it's a fun one. And so we don't really know if it was simply a very large breed of moose with a rare color pattern, or if it's a mystical ghostly animal that's roamed the region for over a century. No one really knows, but I'm planning on going to New England and Maine this year. Maybe I'll see the specter moose. Our next national park we are going to is Badlands National Park in southwestern South Dakota. This park protects over 240,000 acres, and it was established as a national monument on January 25th, 1939, and then as a national park on November 10th, 1978. So, interesting fact here. At the end of the 19th century, the Sioux Indians used this area as the site of the ghost dance, which is a ceremony to revive the souls of buffalo and the dead. After the last ghost dance in 1890, the United States banned the ritual, but it was revived by the Red Power movement, which was a movement to restore Indian rights that began in the 1960s. In 1980, the U.S. Supreme Court awarded compensation to the Sioux for the abrogation of the 1868 treaty, but the Sioux did not accept the money. So just a little interesting fact about the cultural significance of the Badlands area to the Sioux indigenous people. This cryptid is called a banshee, and you've probably heard of a banshee before. It's basically a scary, translucent, middle-aged woman with a terrifying look and blood-curdling scream. The first encounter was in the 19th century, with sightings reported by cowboys, settlers, and indigenous people. Like I said, there's a piercing shriek, and this cryptid can also float and disappear. As the legend goes, the Badlands Banshee is the ghost of a woman who died there before her time. Some say her lover also died there, which is why she screams. Others say she was pushed off the top of one of the buttes where she fell to her death. No matter the origin of the story, her scream continues to chill the souls of the visitors of the Badlands to this day. So, if you've ever been, you've seen there are sweeping formations of eroding sandstone buttes, pinnacles, and spires. And at first sight, the Badlands might look a little creepy or haunted. And you would probably find that's right, especially around Watchdog Butte, which is where she appears. The Banshee has also been said to approach, people. Back in the day, she approached cowboys and hunters. And if they asked her what she wanted, she would fling her arms aloft with a shriek that echoed through the blasted gulches for miles. And then she disappears. An instant later, she is seen wringing her hands on the hilltop. Apparently, cattle will not graze near the haunted butte, and cowboys always kept aloof from this area. She's been seen since the 1900s, and she's still being seen today. This is, I think, one of the creepier ones because she just will appear, she'll float in the air, and then she'll just start to scream, like blood-curdling scream. And that is so creepy to me. That would creep me out more than seeing like an animal cryptid, I think, because this is a little bit less explainable than, I don't know, something that looks like an animal. So this one is super creepy. It's been a long time since I've been to Badlands National Park. I did not see the Banshee while I visited, but who knows? Maybe the next time I visit, I might see it. Next, we're going to go down to Texas and visit Big Bend National Park. Big Bend is located in West Texas and borders Mexico. The park protects more than 1,200 species of plants, more than 400 species of birds, 56 species of reptile, and 75 species of mammals. The park is just over 800,000 acres, and it was established on June 12, 1944. Big Bend remains one of the largest, most remote, and one of the least visited national parks in the contiguous United States. In the 10-year period from 2009 to 2019, an average of 377,154 visitors entered the park annually. So it's got less than 5,100 visitors a year. That might be and have increased, but it's very remote, very hard to get to, and there's not a lot of infrastructure in the area. And when I say that, I mean hotels, restaurants, all the things that make places hospitable. And this cryptid is the bruja, and in Spanish that means witch. So the first encounter was in the 19th century, and hikers actually encountered this bruja in Bruja Canyon, and they reported seeing sights of waiting ghosts. So I just think that's a little strange. This woman looks like a ghostly wailing figure, and it's said to be the witch of a woman who once lived there. Her special powers are that she's able to emit blood-curdling screams, and other witch-like powers are unknown. So kind of sounds like the Banshee, but she is actually a witch. What's interesting about this one is that throughout the years, hikers, park rangers, backpackers, and day visitors have reported hearing wailing sounds coming from the canyon. And some visitors are even saying they could discern words from the screams. Some have even seen the blurred outlines of spooky apparition while in the canyon. So even park rangers are saying that they heard screams, which when a park ranger says they heard something or saw something, I always am like, oh, this might actually be legit then. One of the eeriest theories is that the sounds are the ghostly wails of an indigenous woman who drowned her children in the river canyon to prevent capture by settlers moving into the area. That's so sad and also so creepy. So that is, not a lot about the Bruja, but that is the cryptid out of Big Bend National Park. Next, we're going to go over to California and visit Death Valley National Park. Death Valley was established as a national monument on February 11th, 1933, and then as a national park on October 31st, 1994. It is over 3.4 million acres. It is hot, hot, hot. And it is the largest national park in the contiguous US, as well as the hottest, driest, and lowest of all the national parks in the United States. It contains Badwater Basin, which is the second lowest point in the Western Hemisphere, and the lowest in North America at 282 feet below sea level. More than 93% of the park is designated as wilderness. And this cryptid is kind of a weird one. It's called the giant mummy. It was first reported by Dr. F. Bruce Russell and Dr. Daniel S. Bovey in 1931. It's supposedly an 8 to 10 feet tall mummy with dusty, decaying flesh wrapped in strips of cloth. And it has a special power, and it's able to cause terror by lurching and grabbing anything within its reach. You might be wondering where this comes from, but if you've listened to my Haunted Parks, Death Valley National Park episode, you kind of know where this is going. So there are tales of archaic indigenous people who once lived within this region. Most notably, this group of indigenous Americans was said to be a clan of giants who were at least 8 to 9 feet tall. Two men discovered a cave network in Death Valley in the early 1930s, and they said it contained ancient treasures, heirlooms, tribal artifacts, and the mummified remains of 3 gigantic humans. However, the 2 explorers who alleged to have found these caves could never prove their existence, and both men later disappeared mysteriously. I did cover, the whole story in my Death Valley Haunted Parks episode, so if you want to hear the full story, I definitely recommend going back to listen to that. They also said that there were remains of animals, including dinosaurs, elephants, and tigers. And later it was suggested that most of the bones belonged to ancient saber-toothed tigers and mammoths. So, they went back on expeditions, but they couldn't find the caves again. And like I said before, both of these men mysteriously disappeared. And that is, I think, the scariest part of this entire story. I just think that this is part of the legend. There is a legend about an indigenous chief who had to basically go into these caves through the underworld to retrieve his deceased wife. And apparently there were spooky things down there as well. Most of the things that surround Death Valley in terms of myths and legends are just that. They're all myths and legends. Nothing's ever been proven, but I find it so strange that both of the men that said they saw this stuff went missing. So that's just me. And a lot of people have gone missing trying to find these caves. So I guess we could say there's no evidence that it's not there, but there's no evidence it is there as well. And honestly, I would hate to see a giant mummy in Death Valley National Park. That would freak me out so bad. Next, we'll be heading to one of my favorite states, New Mexico, and we're going to be visiting Carlsbad Caverns National Park. It's in the Guadalupe Mountains in southeastern New Mexico, and basically it's a huge, huge cave system. Visitors to the cave can hike in on their own via the natural entrance or take an elevator from the visitor center. I have done both. Carlsbad Caverns includes a large limestone chamber named Big Room, which is almost 4,000 feet long, 620 feet wide, and 250 feet at its highest point. The Big Room is the largest chamber in North America and the 32nd largest in the world. This national park is just over 46,000 acres, and was established on May 14th, 1930. It contains over 119 caves. And you know what I say, when there are a lot of caves, there's a lot of opportunity for animals to be in them. And this cryptid is a cave sloth. So, first encounter was in 1993 during a fossil excavation. This sloth fossil was 9 feet long, 500 pounds, and had huge sickle like claws. As you can imagine, it was very muscular, and so it could climb and fight very, very well. And you might say, well, this one's not a cryptid. And you'd be right, it's technically not a cryptid, but it is a mystery that's puzzled scientists for decades. This fossilized skeleton of a giant sloth creature was found 400 feet below the ground inside the caverns. Estimates suggest that the creature's bones are 110,000 years old, placing this animal as being alive during the last ice age. While evidence of the sloth creature's existence in the caves is undeniable, endless questions remain, like how did it get there? Did it live there? Probably not. But if it didn't live there, how did it find its way 400 feet below the ground? Geologist Carol Hill, who helped excavate the fossils, believes that the sloth entered the caverns alive, likely by falling in. Quote, there hasn't been a stream running through the caverns for well over 500,000 years, so it's unlikely that the sloth body was washed in. The fall from the cave entrance is very high, and early explorer Jim White used a rope to lower himself down the nearly vertical drop. So maybe if the sloth fell in once he was there, he couldn't escape. I mean, he obviously wasn't built for climbing steep walls. The sloth was probably injured, frightened, and lost, and it actually laid down to die in a pit beneath Devil's Den, which is a place that you go through when descending into the caverns. So, I don't know. Did he fall in? Was he pushed? Or was there another contributor to the fall? We know from other Ice Age sites, notably the Los Angeles La Brea tar pits, that wherever these ponderously moving herbivores roamed, cunning predators, like long saber-toothed tigers, lurked nearby. It's plausible that the Carlsbad cavern sloth did not fall in. Maybe it was chased. Maybe it was trying to get out of a saber-toothed tiger's way. We just don't know. So yeah, that one technically is not like a cryptid, but it's so cool because, I mean, without that evidence of a sloth, a giant sloth without those fossils or of any animal, they are cryptids unless we have evidence, right? That's kind of how science works. I included this one because I think it's cool to learn about history and fossils found in places we wouldn't expect them to be found. And also to know that, I mean, before that fossil was found, we could have said, oh, you know, we've seen cave drawings or petroglyphs or pictographs of like giant creatures. And we would have said, like, hey, there's a cryptid, like this animal. It has to be here because the indigenous people saw it and they recorded it. Well, then we found the fossil. So pretty cool that, you know, we can call something a cryptid and then it can actually be a real thing. So I think that's just kind of where I am with my like imaginative, you know, theories on cryptids and national parks. There's no proof either way until there is. So when people have, you know, sighted lights and UFOs or banshees or specter moose, it's possible. Anything's possible in the outdoors. So, what do you guys think? Is it possible that there once were or still are ancient creatures that reside in our national parks? Let me know what you thought of the episode. I hope you have a great day and a great start to summer. Recreate responsibly, and remember, sometimes the great outdoors aren't always great. Thanks for listening to Morbid Outdoors. If you're enjoying what you're hearing, make sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast platform. It's free, easy, and it helps us out immensely. When you subscribe, you get updates on our latest episodes, and it also boosts our visibility, making it easier for other curious souls to find us. Another great way to support Morbid Outdoors is by leaving us a review. Whether you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen, a quick review helps us know what you love about the show. Find us on Instagram and Facebook at Morbid Outdoors Podcast. You can email us case suggestions and your campfire stories at morbidoutdoorspodcast@gmail.com. Thanks so much for the support, and I'll see you next time.